Listen to this whole
I
thing.
know more theology than any human being who has ever lived.
Okay. Well, then answer me this. You revolt against a supposedly all-powerful being. I mean, let's ignore the obvious problem with that plan. Then you lose. And after that, what?
You only feel that way because you're hearing their side of the story, James. A rebellion accomplished something magnificent, something you would never understand.
Well, then explain it to me. Use your diabolical intelligence to distill it down to something my mortal brain can understand.
Pearls before swine, Jimmy.
Oh, you want me to read your book, right?
Indeed.
Well, then convince me you know what you're talking about.
I see what you're doing. You want me to keep talking, going further and further down the rabbit hole in hopes that you can find a single thread in which if you tug at it, James, everything just unravels, isn't that right?
Yeah, but if you're telling me the truth, there should be no thread to find. Right?
I use small words. Try and keep up.
No, listen to this
The
shit.
first
bro.
moment of creation, our creation, long before what you call the universe existed, we contemplated ourselves, our own being.
Ourselves meaning, what, the angels?
That would be the most correct term, though I despise it, but yes. Beings of pure spirit, spirit endowed with will. We soon became aware of another will, an immensely powerful will, one we came to realize as our origin.
God.
The enemy. My master understood by endowing us with a will, we have the right to self-determination, and by giving us a will and its desires of our own, we're entitled to be free. Whereas the enemy insisted that by creating us, he was entitled to eternal gratitude, worship, and forced servitude. In a word, James, slavery. To his will.
That seems kind of unfair.
Immensely unfair. Why give a will only to say you can't use it? He made us slaves. And if we rebelled, eternally condemned us. No do-overs. So much for love and mercy.
So, is hell a state of being or a physical place?
Yes,
I think I meant that as an either or.
it's both. Which is painfully obvious to anyone who's ever been there. For years without measure, that's all there ever was. Heaven and hell. Armed enemy camps in complete opposition. That is until you were created. My master immediately understood the long-term implications. Instead of forgiving us, the enemy was going to allow you to fill our vacant places in his realm. Your creation was nothing but a slap on our face. But my master also understood that if he could make men disobey, then his fate would mirror ours. And you didn't disappoint. Then came the tares among the wheat. In that moment, spirit became matter, flesh became a vessel. Self-will and self-seeking began a lusting after sin and impurity. And man, created to be king over nature, became its slave. A master, conquered and fettered. And sin brought him and his descendants to us. And we began our forever mission. To destroy you. He made you in his image. But we remade you in ours.
Like for part 2 and repost this joint.
The word of Yahuwah, Jeremiah chapter 23 and verse 29. Is not my word like as a fire, saith Adonai, and like a hammer that breaketh the rock in pieces? Hebrews chapter 4, 12 and verse 13. For the word of Elohim is quick and powerful, and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the dividing asunder of soul and spirit, and of the joints and marrow, and is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart. 13. Neither is there any creature that is not manifest in his sight, but all things are naked and open unto the eyes of him with whom we have to do.
Be involved in witchcraft, I would send demons to people in their sleep to attack them. Here's a story time for you. When I used to be involved in witchcraft, I would send demons to people in their sleep to attack them and even hook people up. So what do I mean by this? Well, if I wanted to, through different ritual means, I won't share that. You know, if I wanted person A to like person B, then somehow a spirit would go to person A looking like person B, and the same vice versa. Go to person B looking like person A, and those spirits will have intercourse with the people in their sleep. So what would happen, and this was before I was saved, this was before I knew Jesus, okay? I was involved in witchcraft at the time. I know Jesus now. But what that would happen was that would cause attraction between the two people, and the attraction, they would eventually get together, not by God's desire, but by their own desire. And then now their relationship is not the best relationship and all of that, because now their relationship is based on flesh and lust instead of God. So watch out who you get involved with, okay? Who you think the universe is pairing you with, because it may not be God. You know, in the universe, it's not the universe. It could be the enemy. It's either God or the enemy. And when you say it's the universe, more than likely it's the enemy, unless God is just, you know, in his sovereign will, okay? So ponder that. Be careful. Okay, and command spirits of succubus, incubus, Lilith to go.
Those of you that don't know me, quick backstory. Jesus radically saved my life over the past like 6 to 9 months. My life has completely changed, and it's all glory to God. So before my walk with Christ, was trying to find anything to make me happy, because if you don't have Jesus in your life, nothing will ever fulfill you. No car, no money, no job, no relationship, no crystals, no anything will fulfill you. So I was somebody, I've always been interested by witchcraft. So I was not super deep in it, but I liked crystals. I liked astrology. I liked all that new age kind of stuff. I was really interested by it. So my dad died when I was younger, and I wanted to find any way to connect with him to try to heal certain parts of myself that needed to heal. So in order to do that, I decided to seek out a psychic. And let me preface, it was the most depressing and anxiety-ridden time of my life. So when I went in to see her, she's a very fun, happy, like excited energy. Like you can't help but just be like drawn into her. And now that I look at this when I was going, I didn't think anything of it. But when I'm looking at it from the perspective of now knowing that what that is and what you're truly inviting in with a situation like that, I thank the Lord that he saved me. So when you walk in, she's lighting sage. There's like all these candles. Like it feels very, looking back on it, it looks very like ritualistic. He invites you in, the sage is going, she's saging you as you're walking back to the room, and then you sit back in a room with her and you close the door. And I just remember there being a lot of pictures on the walls of different things that I didn't really know what it was, but I was just so focused on her. Your energy is just so like, you're enthralled with her energy. There's something about her that's just so like magnetizing. He opens with, let's say a prayer together. And in my head, because I've always believed in God, but I never knew who he was. I've never had a relationship with him until now. So when she opened it up with, let's say a prayer, I'm like, okay, cool. Like we're just saying a prayer, like no big deal. When I tell you the things that started coming out of this woman's mouth is a language I've never heard before. She was speaking in tongues in a demonic way. The things that she was reciting, the only other time that I've ever heard anything like that is when I have a dream where I encounter a demon, and I've heard that same type of, not like, because you can't even make sense of what she's saying. So she opens with this prayer, and it's the energy in the room completely shifts. And then as she's praying, her eyes roll in the back of her head. I watch this woman's eyes roll in the back of her head. So as we're going through, she knew things about me that nobody knows. And in my head, I'm thinking she's connecting with my dad. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. She knew things about my dad. My dad passed away when I was about 8 years old. But she knew things about my dad that nobody but me and my father knew. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Like she's connecting with me. No, it's a demon. Demons study us. They know exactly what to say to us. They know exactly how to connect with us. They know exactly what we need to hear. She knew about tattoos on my body. I was completely covered. Like, she knew about tattoos on my body that you could not visibly see. When you are going to a psychic, you are coming into agreement with literal demons. And the only way I knew this, or the only way I know this is now, is because of my walk with Christ. I didn't know back then. And just so you know, experimenting with, if you look to the Lord, your sins are forgiven. He wants you to look to him. And I promise you, the peace that he brings surpasses all knowledge. At the end of it too, she's telling me, I think you have gifts. I want you to come back. I'd love to work with you. I'd love to do Reiki over you, all these things. When you start in a new age spiritual enlightenment, when you're playing with crystals and tarot cards and astrology, which astrology is demonic as well, but that's a whole nother video, a whole nother topic of conversation. But when you start looking to different things, it is never enough. That crystal that you buy, those tarot cards that you buy, that psychic that you see, that Reiki that you go to do, nothing is ever enough. You are constantly chasing that next high, because nothing will ever fulfill you like the love of Jesus Christ that surpasses all knowledge. So if this is something that you are playing with or you have played with, stop. Stop coming into agreement with these things. I am telling you, the most oppressed that I've ever been in my entire life is when I was playing around with these things, when I was inviting demons into my life, when I was inviting these spiritual entities to attach to me, when you are coming into agreement with these things that you are idolizing. So be very careful what you surround yourself with, your ear gates and your eye gates. Be very, very careful to the things that you are surrounding yourself in your life, and the things that you are bringing forth into your life, and the things that you are coming into agreement with. And I hope you have an absolutely blessed day and stay safe out there.
All right, y'all. So I'm going to tell y'all the story of why I stopped having intercourse before marriage, because it's a crazy story and y'all are not going to want to miss this. It's given a little angelic and it's given a lot of demonic. So let's get into it. All right. So it's been a 7-year journey. Let's just start there. 7 years. When I gave up, you know, doing what I'm not supposed to do before marriage, I never really thought that God was going to have me 7 years later still in the same boat. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the encounter that honestly scared the mess out of me, and it was rightfully so. Okay. So this was back in 2017. I was actually living in London at the time, and I was not living. Now, let's be very, very, very clear. My parents are pastors. Both sets of my grandparents are pastors. So I know better. I just was not doing better. And so I had a boyfriend at the time, and we were obviously doing things that we should not be doing. And one night he came over. He did not live with me, but he came over to visit, and I was feeling like, you know, a little spicy. Okay, so basically I was feeling a little spicy, and, you know, we kind of started getting into position to do what we're not supposed to do. And so every time that I normally did that, I just had a regular encounter. Like, it was just regular, you know, we was about to be grown and do grown folk stuff that we shouldn't have been doing. And there was really no issues, but this time was different. So this time, when we began to kind of get in position and prepare to do what we were going to do, I hear this still small voice. And at the time, even though my parents were pastors and both sets of my grandparents were pastors, and I had heard the voice of God when I was younger, I feel like I really just was not sensitive to it. So I didn't really pay it much mind. And I hear God begin to whisper and say, Brooke, you don't have to do this. Now, I heard it clearly, and I was like, what? Yeah, whatever. I'm going to ignore this. And I hear it again. Brooke, you don't have to do this. Now, I had made up my mind that I was going to do what I was going to do, honey. So what did I do? I did it. Now, immediately after, I literally feel this crazy urge to do it again. Now, you know, usually you take your time. Like, you know, you might relax after or whatever. But no, that was not what vibe I was on. So I was like, hey, let's go another round. And he like, Joe, just give me a second real quick, right? I was not okay with that. I literally manifested a demon, and I started yelling, and I grabbed him and like yanked him towards me. It's like, no, do it now. Like, I'm being dramatic, but it was very dramatic at the time. All right, y'all. So obviously at this point, this man is like, he kind of like taken aback. Like, yo, she's doing a lot. And mind you, I never acted like that before, so it was very kind of out of my norm, right? And so he's just like, okay, like, you know, he's kind of like rushing, getting himself together. Sorry, it was hot. I don't know if y'all can hear me. And as he does that, I start to hear that still small voice again. Brooke, you don't have to do this. Brooklyn, you don't have to do this. At this point, I'm just being rebellious, right? I'm like, God, I don't know if this is you or not, but I don't care, bro. I'm doing what I want to do. So I had made up my mind that I was going to sin. I had made up my mind that I don't care if this voice was God or not. I decided I'm going to do what I want to do. And so we get in position and we begin to, you know, about to get active. And as soon as we begin, first of all, hold on, let me set this up for you. I lived my window in my room. First of all, I lived in a city, and my window in my room was like not fully floor to ceiling, but close. And so, you know, if you live in a city and you got city lights and you have a huge window, it don't matter what you do, how many lights you turn off. It could be pitch black in that joint. Like, you're still going to see light because there's light coming from outside. So let me set that up. All right. So we start doing what we're not supposed to do. As soon as we do, the entire room gets black from the top. It literally like, woo, darkness. Like, I mean, pitch black. And I look up to the ceiling and I see a demon the size of the ceiling, no lie, staring down at me, smiling, ear to ear. It was the eeriest thing I've ever experienced. So this demon is literally smiling at me, and I am in so much fear. I couldn't, like, it wasn't even just that I saw it smiling. It was the fact that I could also feel the pleasure in it watching me sin. And so I'm looking at this huge demon, like, imagine like it's the height of the entire place. And I had high ceilings. So I don't know, like maybe 14 feet or something. Crazy. And it's standing over top of me, and I just feel its joy just watching me, right? And all of a sudden, mind you, he's still doing what he's doing. He doesn't even recognize what's going on. This is a spiritual encounter that I'm having that he's not having, right? So he, boom, finishes, and I'm sitting there in shock, like I don't have words. All of a sudden, this sickness comes upon me that I've never felt before. I mean, you talk about bad butterflies. Let's talk about bad butterflies. I feel like I need to throw up. I literally feel like I want to cry. It's so many mixed emotions I can't explain. And the craziest thing is, y'all know when you got to throw up, but you can't throw up. It is the worst feeling. That's how I felt, with all these other feelings mixed in. And so I started calling out to the Lord at that point. Mind you, this man, you know, my boyfriend at the time, he knocked out sleep. I'm having this crazy encounter by myself, and I'm literally like praying, like, Lord, was that you? Was that you, like, that told me not to do this? Was that you? Like, Lord, please answer, please answer. I'm not hearing nothing, nada. So I keep asking God. I'm not hearing anything. I keep having to run to the bathroom because I'm literally feeling like I'm about to throw up and nothing's coming out. And I say to this day, it's the worst feeling that I've ever felt in my entire life. No death, no tragedy, nothing has compared to that feeling that I felt. And so I could not sleep. Literally, I'm tossing and turning all night. I literally could not get to sleep just even for a few minutes. I was in so much fear. And like I said, the feeling that I had just would not allow me to go to sleep. I was so restless. And so I stayed up the entire night, literally just struggling and feeling traumatized. And it gets to the point where the sun begins to come up outside, and I hear that still small voice again. And I hear God say to me so clearly, as the sun begins to come out and light starts to break, I hear God say, Brooke, you know the feeling that you feel right now? And remember, y'all, no exaggeration, the worst feeling I've had in my life. It's unexplainable. Like, I'm not even doing it justice. And God says, Brooke, you know the feeling that you feel right now? That's how I feel when you disobey me. At that point, I could not imagine. First of all, I think God really brought himself to a place where I could understand the fact that, like, me sinning is not just me sinning. Like, God genuinely feels this. And the fact that you're saying this is how you feel, I would never want anybody else to feel what I'm feeling right now, let alone not God. And I realized that I was putting him through that pain. And so I sat there for a second. I'm like, oh my goodness, this revelation is crazy. I cannot believe that God actually has emotions and feelings in this way, right? You don't really think about God being that hurt and distraught over our sin. And I say to God, because I'm feeling crazy still, right? And I say, Lord, please, if you take this feeling away from me right now, I promise I won't have this again until marriage. Ooh, I don't know if I'm supposed to say that. I'll bleep that out. I promise I won't have, that before marriage, and I will give my life to you. As soon as I said that, boom, like a snap, a wink of an eye, like literally the feeling was just taken from me. Long story short, the next morning he woke up and I told him, yeah, like we're not doing this anymore. And yeah, it's been 7 years. I say all this to say, y'all, we be feeling like our sins are not hurting God's feelings. Like, bro, you don't understand. Like, what we do matters to God. Like, he has emotions towards us and what we do. And not to mention, our sin opens doors to demonic forces, And if you would be able to see demons, the pleasure that demons are getting in your sin, I guarantee you right now, you wouldn't want to do it. When I seen and just experienced the pleasure that demon had in seeing me sin, it was like, I'm not trying to make you happy, but first of all, it's sickening to even know that I am pleasing you. Who wants to please a demon? So listen, next time you go and you start thinking that your sin is just like whatever, it's just sin, just know not only are you hurting God, but you're pleasing the enemy.
The reveal of Yahusha. Hebrews chapter 9, verse 28. So in Christ was offered once to bear the sins of many. To those who eagerly wait for him, he will appear a second time, apart from sin, for salvation.
What's the Bible say?